We might make some mistakes. Who knows?
Are you serious?
Nobody's perfect.
Elon Musk is temporarily stepping down as chairman of Tesla Motors as part of a settlement with the Securities and Exchange Commission and has agreed to pay a $20 million fine.
No, I want to be clear. I do not respect the SEC. I do not respect them.
But you're abiding by the settlement, aren't you?
Because I respect the justice system.
Musk heard his complaints. Earlier today, he put out a statement saying, quote, "This guy was paid by the UAW to join Tesla and agitate for a union."
Rockets, all this stuff you're doing, constantly innovating, decide to just make a flamethrower. Where do you have the time for that?
Well, we didn't put a lot of time into the flamethrower. This was an off-the-cuff thing.
Saying we would hope that Tesla would apologize to their employee, Mr. Moran, for spreading fake news about him.
Sure? Yeah. Maybe that was a little too hard.
There's tobacco and marijuana in there. That's all it is.
He did not inhale.
He smoked it like a cigar.
Nobody's perfect.
Elon Musk, the most eccentric billionaire of the modern era, began his journey in the national spotlight with unanimous praise from consumers and the scientific community alike, after he reinvented public opinion with regards to electric cars, making it a commodity of luxury and moving away from the doom of climate change attitude prevalent in the discourse of energy transition. He soon picked up a cult following, from being the guy that popularized simulation theory to the union-busting billionaire that promotes military coups for lithium. This is the rise and fall of Elon Musk, how he became a joke. Born in Pretoria, one of the 3 capitals of South Africa, amidst the turmoil of apartheid, Elon received a privileged upbringing, with most rules being biased in favor of Europeans and other white nationalities. Musk's parents, Arrow, an abusive father and successful engineer, and Mae Musk, a successful TV star and model, married in 1970. Musk's father stated in 2018, "We were very wealthy. We had so much money we couldn't even close our safe." Elon attended private school throughout his childhood until he decided to move to Canada to avoid military enlistment. Musk enrolled in Queen's University to pursue his entrepreneurial visions and later transferred to the University of Pennsylvania. Soon after, his mother Mae followed suit, relocating to Canada. With exploitation of labor plaguing Arrow's past, it's speculated whether the desegregation and end of apartheid in 1994 had anything to do with that decision.
It was very violent. It was not a happy childhood. My father has serious issues.
In a November interview with the Rolling Stone, Elon called Errol a, quote, terrible human being, saying this, "My dad will have a carefully thought out plan of evil. You have no idea about how bad."
Despite this, in 1995, Musk turned his family's legacy around. Deciding to take a gamble on himself, he dropped out of Stanford only 2 days into his first semester at the institution. With the loan from his father of $28,000, Musk and his brother Kimball began their first venture into Silicon Valley through Zip2. Musk, who was $100,000 in debt due to student loans, gave his father shares in the company to thank him for the opportunity not many would have in a similar position. The startup, Zip2, was intended to be an online consumer version of the Yellow Pages with visual maps.
Back in '95, there weren't very many people on the internet, and certainly nobody was making any money at all. Most people thought the internet was going to be a fad.
Losing his title as CEO, Musk was later delegated to CTO after the company gained steam with serious investors. Owning 7% netted Elon $22 million in 1999 when the website was acquired by Compaq for $307 million. With $10 million of that payday, Elon immediately set out on his next venture, which would propel him to ultra wealth.
So this is an ATM. What we're going to do is transform the traditional banking industry.
I think X.com could absolutely be a multi-billion-dollar bonanza.
Elon and his brother Kimball began X.com, which would later evolve into PayPal. After a merger with the competitor, Elon was ousted as CEO again, but remained on the board. eBay later acquired the company through $1.5 billion deal, which netted Elon $180 million personally.
I'd say the real payoff is the sense of satisfaction in having created the company that I sold.
Yes, with the cars.
With the car, sure is.
Musk was soon recognized as a modern mogul within Silicon Valley. After the immense payout of PayPal in April 2004, Musk invested into the company that he would become most known for, Tesla. After joining and later acquiring Tesla from the original engineers that founded it, Martin Eberhard and Mark Toppering, Musk invested into the subsidiary SolarCity, which would later merge with Tesla and enable it to become the epicenter of the luxury electric car market. Simultaneously, the mogul was also trying to establish SpaceX on the side. Eventually, his money well ran dry, and he resorted to borrowing from friends in order to finish what he started.
Raising $50 million is a matter of making a series of phone calls, and the money is there.
This low point also coincided with the divorce of his first wife, which would cost him $20 million when it was all settled. Around 2012 is when Musk got his second win, netting another $92 million from Google after an investment in DeepMind. Musk invested in a variety of new ventures, including AI and biotech-focused startups such as Halcyon Molecular, Vicarious, and Neutral Visual. Elon went from having $2 billion in 2012 to $22 billion in 2020.
In 2008 was probably the toughest year that I've had in my whole career. We had 3 failures in a row. And if there'd been a 4th failure, the company would have died. And then simultaneously, the financial markets were going to hell, and we were raising a financing round for Tesla, and the financing round fell apart because people didn't have any money. And I had to basically take all of my remaining cash and invest it in Tesla, and in fact ended up borrowing money just to pay rent.
Around his rise in the tech world, Elon gained attention online from a community of people that longed for a charismatic programming engineer. Someone successful enough to have credibility with world leaders and somehow subvert the awkward introverted stereotypes Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates reinforced out of Silicon Valley icons. Elon would follow instead in the trajectory of Steve Jobs, becoming a symbol of American entrepreneurship and innovation. SpaceX soon acquired the capacity to land rockets, destroying single-use technology, and became the first private company to send a vessel to space through the Falcon Heavy. In spite of voices in opposition towards privatizing space, such as Neil deGrasse Tyson and Elon Musk's heroes Neil Armstrong and James Sonnen, SpaceX sensationalized the skies again for people that longed for a project big enough to rival the moon landing.
You know, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. You know, I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here. And I think that would change their mind.
Elon is also credited with popularizing the now infamous simulation theory, an idea that had been discussed for years in academic circles after Nick Bostrom's essay pondering the probability of us living in base reality.
No, there's a 1 in billions chance that this is base reality.
Oh, okay. What do you think?
Well, I think it's 1 in billions.
Okay.
I mean, arguably we should hope that that's true, because otherwise, if civilization stops advancing, then that may be due to some calamitous event that erases civilization. So maybe we should be hopeful that this is a simulation, because otherwise...
So they could reboot it.
Well, otherwise, either we're going to create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality, or civilization will cease to exist. Those are the 2 options.
Among his achievements, he founded the Boring Company and gave away fire launchers after maneuvering around the legality of shipping such a product. Later, Neuralink became a sensation in the public discourse after he decided to step into that scene as well. With all the successful ventures in his past, it felt like Elon could do no wrong.
I think people realise what sort of guy he is.
Would you consider taking legal action against him?
Yes. It's not finished.
Had absolutely no chance of working. He had no conception of what the cave passage was like. The submarine, I believe, was about 5'6" long, rigid, so it wouldn't have gone round corners or round any obstacles. It wouldn't have made the first 50 metres into the cave from the dive start point. Just a PR stunt.
Unfortunately, Elon's biggest flaws were emphasized as his persona grew. Even though it doesn't seem like a big event, we can trace the beginning of his downfall to 2018 with the Thailand cave incident. After a youth soccer team of 12 got trapped in a cave, Elon Musk insinuated the British diver that was there trying to help was a pedophile, after the diver criticized Musk's hollow attempt to capitalize on publicity by sending over a submarine to help. Unfortunately, the submarine was nowhere near the dimensions that would enable the device to provide use to the rescue operation, going as far as contracting a private investigator to dig up dirt on the man to remedy the optics of the situation caused the error to snowball. After a worldwide backlash, Elon Musk apologized and tried to fix the optics. However, the damage was done. The incident gave the public its first glimpse into the immature antics Elon Musk would come to be too familiar with, as it showed a complete disregard of reality, as well as his abuse of power when turning his immense wealth on an average man and digging into his private life. Not long after this incident began his saga with the UAW. The UAW is an organization that tries to help workers gain rights through unionizing. After an employee of Tesla started to demand more safety measures in the California factories, Musk began a campaign to suppress his workers. With the small size of the company and large quantities of orders that were coming in, overworked teams started to see more injuries because of machinery that wasn't ergonomically safe. Tesla ended up firing 3,000 employees. During this phase, Musk broke the law a considerable amount of times. However, his strongest indictment was Wade from his own Twitter account after he threatened employees with losing benefits in the form of stock option if they were to decide to unionize. After this backlash, Elon, agitated with the critical media coverage, again went online and made the situation worse by stating he would be starting a new company called Pravda after the notorious Soviet propaganda outlet to rate journalists based on their credibility. People saw through this as a bitter and petty move and turned on Tesla, assuming the website would inherently have a bias against harsh, perhaps valid critiques of the CEO, like Bloomberg did with their founder, Mike Bloomberg. Some defended the idea with immense disdain towards the media, citing the reputation of the industry had built for itself. Still, third-party validation inherently comes with the business, so most in the field saw this for what it was.
Something weird is happening to ostensibly smart public figures lately. Public intellectuals, if you will, who has leveraged his fortune and fame to become a self-appointed spokesman on a wide variety of issues, or routinely giving out information that is either bonkers or just plain deceptive to the point that even I, a once self-proclaimed Elon Musk fangirl, can no longer stand behind.
2020 was not only the worst year in modern human history, but was also Elon's worst year as a public figure. Early in the year, the billionaire Jeffrey Epstein's pedophilic sex ring story dominated the headlines, capturing the public's interest. High society, the small club that it is, forces figures to run into each other, as it did with Elon and Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's partner in crime. After a picture began circulating the web of the two, Elon was forced to acknowledge it by stating she had photobombed him and he had no connection to her or Epstein. Later, it was revealed that his brother Kimball actually had a strong relationship with the couple, being invested in ventures together and being introduced to an ex through the couple. Musk, even though he denied, was said to have provided the sinister couple a private tour of SpaceX in 2012, well after his Florida conviction, which outed Epstein as a pedophile. Elon was trolled for weeks, with every tweet sent from his account being bombarded with the picture and links to articles of the connection with the deceased offender. Later, more details connecting Musk to the now deceased billionaire emerged. A story detailing Epstein's business connection with Elon through Tesla appeared in the New York Times. Musk eventually denied the story and claimed he didn't know where the allegations came from. Taking into account that the story was published on a major publication and Musk is a founder of the company in question, makes it very unlikely that he didn't read the piece. To this date, no retraction or editor updates have been added to the source since its publishing.
Some areas, hospitals are overwhelmed with COVID patients.
Things only got worse from there as Elon adopted his most controversial stance relative to his following. Peddling anti-science rhetoric, Elon downplayed the severity of the COVID-19 virus by stating, and I quote, "The coronavirus panic is dumb," end quote, and that it would be gone by early April. Later, Elon donated 1,000 ventilators to hospitals running low on supplies, but soon it came out that the specific type he donated actually spread the disease more. Further exacerbating the situation, Elon exposed how out of touch he was with the science community when he insisted the country reopen while in the middle of the first wave of the pandemic. During this time, other countries were still hunkering down for the long battle. Many speculated that this was related to third-quarter sales in Tesla, which had conditions that would ensure a big payout for the entrepreneur. Elon revealed his greedy and privileged right-leaning libertarian politics when he said another $1,200 check was not in the best interest of the public, as tens of millions lost their jobs. Along with their jobs, they also lost their employer-provided health care. During this time, the United States saw a surge of food banks and rise in crime, as is to be expected with the rise in unemployment. Many saw the statement from Musk as not only lacking in empathy, but hypocritical, considering that Tesla had received help through a $5 billion government subsidy.
Exit polls are showing that Evo Morales' movement towards Socialism Party has secured more than 50% of the vote in an election held Sunday, shattering American propaganda pushed by Pompeo and the national security establishment, the CIA, and also the mainstream media that backed the right-wing party and police forces throwing Morales out of power and claiming that the election was illegitimate with zero evidence.
By the time summer rolled around, Elon Musk was considered a joke by anyone who was paying attention to the COVID discourse in the United States. Things reached an ethical tipping point when Elon Musk once again through Twitter destroyed his reputation by aligning his support behind the CIA-backed fascist coup in Bolivia led by Jeanine Áñez. Áñez, who was prepared to sell the nation's lithium, affected Elon's bottom line. Musk's supplier, who's located in the east, would have to lower their prices to compete with Bolivia. A new supplier entering the market would indirectly boost profits tremendously for Tesla and Solar City. In 2020, Bolivia also held elections. Once again, the citizens voted for the Socialist Party and rejected the policies and rhetoric the fascist Áñez regime had instilled. This gave the previous socialist administration more credibility, proving the people were on their side despite the water muddled by the media when engaging with Morales, the previous leader. Tesla's stock took a small dive after the elections, proving that investors knew there was something to gain through the coup. Elon still commands a following that defends his actions religiously, but his presence has also sparked a movement that identifies him as the worst society can offer. Becoming his father on the road to success, Elon eventually partnered with the Pentagon to work on an express system that will ship weapons anywhere in the world within hours. Seems like a fitting end considering the now famous comparisons of Tony Stark, who also was responsible for countless deaths through his involvement with the weapons industry. Elon Musk continues to innovate, pushing forward on his project to colonize Mars, but with politically charged outbursts on Twitter about sensitive topics, it's hard to tell if he'll be leaving Earth alone by choice or necessity.